I'm Lance Leach.
I'm Briar Wagner.
And this is We Talk Football. If you haven't been to our website, go check out wetalkfootball.org. Also go like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter.
Also make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes.
All right, so we'll jump right in with what happened this last week. If you weren't watching football, then you are not a red-blooded American. Last Thursday was an amazing game between the defending champs and the team that they beat in the Super Bowl. The Broncos managed to hang on for a 1-point victory over the Panthers, 21-20 at the end, with a missed 50-yard field goal by Graham Gano. God, this was an amazing game. It was we got to see exactly what I thought. I thought the Panthers were going to force turnovers, and they did. They got 2 picks on Simeon. Some
of those picks, though, I'm not going to really chalk them up to. It was great defensive plays.
The one where he rolled out and it was tipped right in front of him, that was stupid. If you have 2 guys that are rushing at you, you do not throw the ball in their direction. One of them's going to jump, at least one of them. So that was a stupid play. And the other one, not entirely his fault.
But you can't knock him. He had a great baseball move.
Yeah, I love that play. That was a great play. And he did well under pressure.
He did. His first time playing against... I wouldn't want to go against that defense.
No. But C.J. Anderson, my running back in fantasy, had a tremendous game.
Didn't help you.
Not win. No, I didn't get to win. Also, the Raiders-Saints game, another great one.
That was a great game.
Came down to
heartbreaker.
the end.
Just a heartbreaker.
Saints were up 34-27. Raiders scored. Del Rio decides with 47 seconds left, he's going to go for the 2-point conversion and the win. And he got it. And then the Saints weren't able to get downfield, and that was it.
To be fair, their kicker, they missed a 60-yarder, inches to the left. Rookie kicker had never kicked in I don't even think he kicked in preseason. This was his first time kicking in an NFL setting. He was signed off the practice squad from
Baltimore.
Yep. So, good on him. I think he handled the pressure pretty well. 60 yards, that's not every kicker in this league can even make that.
Yeah.
So, but no, that was a great game. An absolute heartbreaker, though. Brees to Cooks twice, my hookup, it was great.
That was a good connection there. And then we also got exactly what I had thought. The Saints offense was going to be too much for the Oakland defense. Oakland has rebuilt that defense, and I guarantee they're going to be good at some point this season, but New Orleans offense is just too much. Drew Brees is too much.
I am surprised, though, that their defensive line was entirely non-existent. After that first drive for the Saints where Brees got strip-sacked, Brees wasn't touched.
Well, with Edwards out with his little hip injury or whatever it is, and then I don't really like the way that they use Mack and Irvin. I think that if they were to do it right, they would move it to a 3-4 and let them run the outside linebacker pass rushing position in a 3-4. It doesn't mean that you have to get rid of the 4-3 entirely. You can run it like the Jets run their defense, alternate depending on...
Yeah, all situational. What do you think about the... do you think they're regretting the Sean Smith signing, 4 years, $70 million?
Oh, after getting destroyed?
Just torched.
Man, maybe.
Do you agree with Del Rio benching him in the second quarter? I think he got benched by the second quarter.
Sometimes you gotta send a message to your players, so you do what you gotta do. How about the Jets-Bengals game? There was a bunch of great games. All the ones that I chose were 1-point victories, but the Jets-Bengals game, the Jets end up losing 23-22, and if you go back and look at it, they had a missed extra point and a blocked field goal.
Yeah.
Those two would have given them the win. They would have won 26-23. Barring a Bengals
obviously
late drive, but that would have been it. And Fitzpatrick is back. Hit Decker. Love that.
Decker.
And then Dalton to Green. That is in full force.
I did not expect Revis to get torched like that.
Oh, and the one deep touchdown, they think that, the commentators, as I was watching it, and I think I have to agree with them, I don't think Revis was supposed to be covering him. I think the safety was supposed to have him over top, and the safety moved off of Green, and Revis was trying to chase after him.
From what I understood from the, obviously Revis has been asked about this, but he expected to have over-the-top coverage. and it wasn't there.
Yeah.
So it was someone screwed up somewhere. I don't know if I can entirely blame him. Obviously, he's going to get the blame because he started on the coverage.
But even without that touchdown catch, Green still had 11 catches for like 100 yards.
Yeah.
Without that play.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Revis.
But had that touchdown not happened, Jets might have won.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then the Cowboys lose to the Giants by 20-19. Okay, so Dak Prescott, not too bad in his first official game. Elliott was unimpressive. 20 rushes for 52 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, don't you love how it was one touchdown run of like 8 yards, I think, just 5-yard run or whatever is top 3 rushing.
It's kind of bringing back memories of a former top 5 running back selection, Trent Richardson, who in his rookie season averaged just over 3 yards a carry. If you can't get the yards a carry, it doesn't matter how many times you get in the end zone. If you can't get the yards per carry, you're not doing anything for your team. 4 yards per carry, that's what you want out of your running back, because that means that you can hand it off to him 3 times and he's going to get you the first down. 12 yards, 12 yards, 12 yards. If he's doing 20 attempts for 52 yards, he's averaging a little over 2 a carry, and that's going to end up setting you up for 3rd and long, or eventually you're going to give up on the run, and then everyone's going to swarm the pass. So you got to be able to take pressure off of Prescott by running the ball.
I'm not ready to crucify him yet. He played 1 game in the preseason, which I don't think was right. They definitely should have had their rookie players playing in the preseason. Obviously, no, they don't want another star player to get injured, but he's growing pains.
Yeah.
He'll figure it out. Behind this offensive line, there's no reason he should be getting only 2.5 per clip.
And then Terrence Williams. You're down by 1 point. I don't care if it's going to end up being a 60-yard field goal. Dan Bailey has the leg for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get out of bounds. Don't run back towards the middle. You have Des Bryant standing 5 yards beyond you going like this to tell you to go towards the sideline, and instead he cuts back in and gets tackled. Game over. You lost the game for your team. At least leave it on the kicker's leg. Don't try and make it all happen yourself.
Yeah, it was funny. I was actually coming back from the grocery store. I was listening to that game on NFL radio on Sirius, and the commentator was losing his mind. It was Dallas radio. He was like, "Get out of bounds!" Like screaming like Terrence Williams can hear him. He's like this. Oh my! He's like, I can't. I just can't. He's like, what a boneheaded play. No, I'm with Lance. There was a lot of really good games this weekend. I think I counted only 2 games out of all of Thursday and Sunday night, up to Sunday night. Only 2 games were more than a score, more than a touchdown difference. So that'd be the Vikings and Tennessee, and I want to say, I can't remember.
Washington lost to Pitt by a good chunk.
Yeah, but up to the Monday night was blowout central, but I can't remember the other one. But no, one of my teams I picked the Tampa Bay Atlanta game. Really good, 31-24 in division. Jameis Winston looked really strong. He had that early pick, which let the Falcons go up 10-3. After that, he's like, okay, this is what I got to do. 4 touchdowns later, Tampa Bay wins 31-24. It's really funny about them winning their opening game. This is the first time Tampa Bay has been positive in the record column since Week 13, 2012. First time being positive. I think they lost like 5 games straight from Week 11 to Week 16 in that season, and finished 7-9. It's like, oh, that's a nice little stat. Matt Ryan had a pretty good game, 27-39, 334 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks.
Yep.
So I think a lot of that falls on Atlanta's defense, which was a lot of their problem last year. It seems it kind of carried over.
Well, my hat's off to Jameis Winston. You know what? I'll do my congratulations right now, because my congratulations is to a couple of guys that I have dogged on a lot. Jameis Winston's one of them. But he has proven now, because Atlanta's pass defense is not a joke. Their secondary is not a joke. Desmond Trufant, Robert Alford, they don't get as much credit as they should, but he went out there and showed me that he is the real deal, because he threw the 1 pick and he was like, all right, I can bounce back from this, and he did. He went off.
He did a great job.
Yeah.
My next game, I think you and I can both agree, was another great game. Green Bay at Jacksonville.
Oh, yeah.
It was literally a hot game. The heat index of that game, before it even started, was over 100, like 110, 115. It was hot. What else was hot was the two quarterbacks, Rodgers and Bortles. They both did great. I think I've got here Bortles 24 for 39, 320 yards, touchdown and a pick. And then Rodgers went 20 for 34, 190, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. But then he also added 4 rushes for 61 yards.
And a touchdown.
Rodgers doesn't run. I know a lot of people glad Jordy Nelson. He looks good. I think 6 catches, 36 yards, and a touchdown. It was good to see. It didn't look like they were holding him back at all. I think he was on the field majority.
He was supposed to be on the snap count, but it was a as we go type of deal. So depending on how much we need you out there, that's how much we'll play you.
Oh, he handled the load pretty well. I think we'll see more and more of him start evolving. Next week he doesn't have an easy task, but we'll talk about that later. Eddie Lacy is another player for Green Bay that looked really well after dropping 25-ish pounds, at least reportedly. 61 yards off 14 attempts, and he broke one off for 28 yards. TJ Yeldon, great job handling the load after Chris Ivory hospitalized Sunday morning. They haven't said what yet. Speculation has to do with he has some undisclosed calf injury.
He was released 2 days later.
Yeah, he was. I was going to mention he was released last night.
That it didn't have anything to do with his calf.
Then no one knows why he was hospitalized. And then another. This whole game was full of some players coming back looking good. Julius Thomas looks like he may have. He's coming back from that foot injury he had. 5 passes for 64 yards and included a 22-yard pass. Oh, the game we didn't see coming. San Diego at Kansas City.
This one had me sweating. I'm
sitting there going, the heck?
I'm sitting there watching the games. I'm like, yeah, all right, I can see why I got that one wrong. I can see why I got that one wrong. I went out on a ledge on that one, the Cleveland game.
Yeah.
But this one, when watching San Diego, I was like, Kansas City, you are killing me. This is one that I thought was a gimme, and they're just drowning. And then, of course, San Diego did their classic let's flop in the second half.
Yeah, I was sweating the first half too because I had Spencer Ware. Everyone's hyping up Spencer Ware, and he was basically non-existent in the first half. And I was like, crap. Hats off to Melvin Gordon. Didn't find the end zone at all last year. Found it twice in the first half.
Yep.
Rivers, he looked good in the first half. I think a lot of their collapse though came right after Keenan Allen went down with that ACL injury.
Yeah.
Really feel for the guy, trying to come back from the lacerated kidney, and first game back blows his ACL out. Non-contact, I think he was cutting or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
I watched it. It was
terrible.
Freak.
But no, that second half of the game that got interesting. Chiefs didn't get the ball back until it was 24-3. Alex Smith buckled down. They started driving, started getting touchdowns, what they needed. Tyreek Hill, his first NFL catch was a 9-yard touchdown. It's good for him. Jeremy Maclin got a score. Spencer Ware finally got into the end zone right at the end of the game, which helped kind of get up to the point where they could tie it off. What's their kicker's name? I'm drawing a blank.
Cairo Santos.
Yep, Santos. Let Santos kick. I think with 48 seconds left, they tied it. And then Alex Smith, Chiefs get the ball back in overtime. Alex Smith just straight drives down the field, runs it in himself.
Yep.
It was great. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, how many people had Alex Smith in their starting lineup this week?
You're welcome. Definitely start paying more attention to him. It seems like every time we talk about him being just a game manager, he's a manager. He goes out and does this. And then the Sunday night game, kind of capping off the really fun Sunday. New England at Arizona. I've got here, do you think that maybe this is a change of the guard at quarterback? You think that this was a stepping stone for Garoppolo to maybe possibly hang on to that starting position when Brady comes back?
It's Brady's job when he comes back, regardless. Until Brady proves that he cannot handle it anymore, it's Brady's job. I will say my other congratulations goes out to Garoppolo because I was not a fan of him when he came out of college. I'm still not a big fan of him, but he managed to exploit the weakness on Arizona's really tough defense, and that is the opposite side of the field is Patrick Peterson.
Which I've gotten here.
It's a massive hole. That beautiful pass to Chris Hogan. Yeah, Hogan was wide open, but it was perfect. Perfectly placed, right in his hands where he could keep running. And, yeah, it was great job by Garoppolo for doing what he had to do on the opposite side. And he didn't hang on to the ball long enough for Arizona's pass rush, new and improved pass rush, to have an effect on him. So,
I think they only got him once, and that was former Patriot. Chandler Jones that got him. Good job on Osweiler. Terrible, like we said, rookie Brandon Williams, who's that DB. Just time and time again, it seemed he was getting beat. Even if the receivers weren't getting the ball, like they went somewhere else, they were getting by him. He was missing tackles. One tackle he missed was when LeGarrette Blount got it in there. He took a horrible angle on it and just missed. I got this. Congrats for me. Congrats to Larry Fitzgerald. Hit 100 receiving touchdowns. Really hope this isn't his last year. I mean, I can understand if they do go out and win the they bounce back, win the Super Bowl. He'll go out and blaze the glory. But if that doesn't happen, I want to see him back next year. There's no reason. There's no reason why he shouldn't be back next year. All right, and that was my week in review. All right. So I've got here real quick just some quick injuries. Gronk, everyone entirely surprised. Saturday night didn't fly out with the team. He practiced. He practiced today. Great news for everyone. I don't know if he was limited or full. I think I read that he's full, which would be even better news for us Sunday. Hopefully that hamstring injury's gone. Sammy Watkins, questionable for tomorrow. He's dealing with some pain in his surgically repaired foot. So he's either going to be out or he's going to be in a very limited basis. So if you've got him in fantasy, you might want to pay attention to any articles that are coming out to make that last-minute change. Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, they were limited with ankle injuries today. I don't think it's anything to be concerned with. I know Julio's been battling an ankle injury for some time now, so that might be something to watch. Devontae Parker's practicing again. He missed week 1 with hamstring. Russell Wilson, apparently very questionable after that ankle injury he got. Ndamukong Suh, accidentally.
It was an actual accident.
He was running after Russell. Russell went down. He accidentally stepped on him. Apparently, it's a pretty serious ankle injury.
It's a big guy to be landing.
Russell's a very tiny guy. Jamal Charles is still questionable. Article came out. He's been working with the scout team, trying to get back into football shape. They're not trying to rush him. They have no reason to rush him right now. Spencer Ware, Chandrick West, they're in good hands until Charles comes back, fully healthy. And then, like we said earlier, Chris Ivory, he was finally discharged from the hospital. Status is unknown. So keep an eye on that if you have either Ivory or Yeldon. That might be a incentive to start Yeldon again.
All right, so now we'll jump into our fantasy starts and sits.
Boom.
As normal, we will be doing one per position. One each per position. Yep. One start, one sit. I'll kick us off with my start at quarterback is Jameis Winston against Arizona. Arizona's defense is still going to be tough, and so Tampa's still going to have to compete with that. But Garoppolo, like I said, went out there and showed that giant weakness on the left side of the field. So, or opposite side of the field, as Patrick Peterson, I should say. It was the left side for most of it, though.
Yeah, I don't think Peterson. I think they run that similar. You're on this side of the field. You're on this side of the field. So
it doesn't matter. Winston has 2 big receivers that are fast. So whichever one you decide to line up on the same side as Marcus Williams or Thorold Simon that they just signed, when they're saying that Thorold Simon could actually get the start on Sunday on a short week of training, I don't see it happening. So. But if it does happen, still a weakness. He's not going to know the defense, not entirely, not by then. So, yeah. Start Jameis Winston. He's going to put up numbers.
Kind of a caveat with that. I'm saying start Derek Carr. We saw what Jameis Winston did. I think Carr's got a better team around him. I think he's got a better support cast, especially on defense, which will kind of help. Maybe make some turnovers and stuff. He's also got the added bonus. They're at home, which will help greatly. His last 7 games at home, he's thrown 15 touchdowns. So that should be a pretty good incentive to you. All right, my sit. I'm saying sit Ryan Tannehill versus New England. At this point in the season, I'm still going off past performances, and history is not on Tannehill's side. He put up 15 points against the Seahawks last week, which don't get me wrong, that was great. He would have had a lot more if a certain Kenny Stills didn't drop a wide open touchdown pass. The last 3 visits to Gillette Stadium, he's thrown 3 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. Odds is not in his favor. They're just not.
I'm saying sit Kirk Cousins against Dallas. Dallas went out and shut down Odell Beckham, basically.
Basically, yeah.
They don't have much of a pass rush, but Eli Manning still wasn't able to get a lot done. Granted, the Giants ended up winning, but by 1 point against the defense that, with New York's offense, they should have been able to go all over him. And then you got Cousins, who struggled against a young, unproven secondary in Pittsburgh. He threw 3 picks.
Yeah, I think so. It was just a bad game.
It wasn't pretty. Until he can figure out whatever his problem is and get himself back on track, leave him on your bench. Running backs, my start is Ezekiel Elliott against Washington. I know I just went on that little rant about his 20 attempts for 52 yards, but Washington's defense was ran all over by D'Angelo Williams. And if Elliott really is this top 5 back that is supposed to be the next great thing in the NFL, then he should have no problem doing better than what D'Angelo did.
Especially considering Dallas has got a far superior offensive line to Pittsburgh.
So,
all right, my start. I kind of alluded to this earlier. TJ Yeldon. Kind of put a little asterisk next to this. This is all depending what happens with Ivory. But versus San Diego, I see Yeldon and Ware kind of having similar play sets where Yeldon can run it between the tackles. Not only that, he can also catch it out of the backfield like he showed against Green Bay. The numbers weren't there for Yeldon last week, but I think Green Bay's defense is far superior to San Diego's defense. And Yeldon, he didn't slouch last week. I thought he did really well. So there's no reason why he shouldn't go off against San Diego's defense, much like Ware did.
Oh, yeah, that was your start.
Yeah, that was my start. My sit, Amir Abdullah versus Tennessee. And I'm saying sit here is because you don't want to play a defense that held Adrian Peterson to 31 yards.
Very impressive.
19 carries, 31 yards.
But Tennessee was also stacking the box against Peterson because Sean Hill was the quarterback.
Sean Hill, he was passing it out.
260 yards.
That's
no
more
touchdowns, no picks.
No, but the offense didn't score at all.
Still not going to look at Sean Hill and be like, we need to stop playing 8 men in the box. That's not going to. You're not going to scare anyone with Sean Hill back there. So my sit at running back this week is Matt Forte against Buffalo. Despite the Bills' struggles on offense last week, their defense still did pretty well. They held Baltimore to 13 points. In fantasy, in our league, they kept Forsett and West to 6 points, which in a regular league is like 12 combined together. It's not good at all.
Not at all.
And I know Forte is a better player than Forsett and West, but if you have better options on your bench, I would go ahead and swap Forte out for whatever you have sitting there. My start for receiver is Mohamed Sanu against Oakland. I still don't view Sanu as a viable WR2 in anyone's offense, but he did have a nice game last week.
He did.
And Oakland was just giving up points to Cooks, to Snead, anyone who New Orleans wanted to give the ball to. Oakland was allowing it. I could see Atlanta, who just got done thoroughly passing the ball against Tampa without problems, being able to do the same against Oakland, at least until they can get this pass rush situation figured out.
Which I think is key here. My start, I said Julian Edelman versus the Finns. For anyone, I guess, who really follows fantasy or just football in general, knows that Julian Edelman has his way with the Dolphins. Anytime they face each other, he just has his way. It doesn't matter what's going on. He had himself a pretty good game last week against the Cardinals, who I think Ivy knows they have a far better defense than the Dolphins do. Again, more looking at history. Over his last 4 games against the Dolphins, he has averaged over 16 points in fantasy, which that's a pretty good receiver. My sit, Sammy Watkins for the Jets. I think a lot of this has to do with his possible foot injury. Last week he only put 43 yards up off 4 receptions. Now, is that because of who they're facing? Yeah. But if he's hurt, you don't want a hurt receiver going against Darrelle Revis. Yeah, he got torched by A.J. Green, but that's A.J. Green. Revis isn't going to let that happen 2 weeks back to back. So just avoid Sammy Watkins if you can avoid it.
And Todd Bowles is a defensive mastermind, so he's going to look at the film from last week and he's going to figure out what the problem was. He's going to fix it. So
yeah, so just avoid it.
For me, my sit is Jeremy Maclin against Houston. Maclin apparently went into concussion protocol and came out all right.
Again.
So, but that's still something that you want to keep an eye on because he has a history of this. So, leave him on your bench. Houston's defense had a solid week against the Bears last week, which isn't saying much, but they managed to keep Alshon Jeffrey and Kevin White from really having any big performance. Mm-hmm. Leave Maclin on your bench.
I think that was the other blowout game that was more than 2. Houston and Chicago.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Tight end. I'm saying start Virgil Green against Indianapolis. Green's probably out on your waiver wire, so if you have an injury like I do, I'd go out and grab him. If you're sitting in a situation where you don't really like your tight ends, drop one, go grab Green. Simeon likes to look for him. He was targeted 5 times, once in the red zone. During preseason, he was targeted in the red zone by Simeon. It's like a nice little big outlet for him to aim for towards the end zone, which is always nice. And also, Ebron last week put up double-digit points against Indianapolis, and so I mean, Indy's defense was just awful. I knew they were going to be bad, but they were worse than bad.
They were pretty bad.
Yeah.
All right. So my start at. Did you do start and sit?
No, just start.
Okay. My start for a tight end, Kyle Rudolph versus Green Bay. Green Bay gave up, 12.4 points to Julius Thomas. Everyone's 12.4, and that's last week. Tight ends did terribly. Mm-hmm. That was one of the top tight end scores of the week.
Yep.
I expect Kyle Rudolph to have a similar type game. Regardless of who's under center for the Vikings, that's going to be that safety valve. That's going to be that dump off guy. They're going to have plays just so the quarterback can quickly get it to him. If Green Bay's going to be worried about Adrian Peterson and
Stephon
Diggs, Treadwell if he plays, they've got other things to worry about. Rudolph might kind of get forgotten about, much like Julius Thomas did. My sit, I'm saying sit Martellus Bennett. He did nothing last week. Gronk was gone. He was the guy at tight end. 3 catches, 18 yards. If you're doing that poorly without Gronk on the field, Gronk is more than likely going to be back this week. Avoid him. Don't do it.
Yeah. Wait until we see how he's used with Gronk. I think that with Gronk, he'll be able to free up space. Honestly, I just wait on Martellus Bennett until Brady's back, because that's when the 2 tight ends.
Yeah, that's when the Patriots offense will really start showing itself. For the next 3 weeks, just avoid them.
Yeah.
Gronk is a safe bet. Martellus Bennett, not so much.
My sit is Zach Miller against Philly. Last week, Philly shut out Barnage. He literally didn't catch a single pass, which I know.
He dropped 2. He dropped 2.
You can say that it was because RG3 was in the backfield, and RG3 has that rapport with Terrell Pryor, and maybe not so much with Gary Barnage. And with Josh McCown back, Barnage is going to get that, or got Josh McCown starting, I should say.
Yeah.
Barnage will get that. But Zach Miller is playing in the Bears offense, and the Bears offense was unimpressive last week, and Cutler is pretty much unimpressive every week. So just given the Bears' struggles, sit Miller. Don't waste your time. Start whoever else you got. Or, don't go out and grab him off of the waiver wire.
Avoid.
My start at kicker, like I said last week, with kickers and defenses, I'm generally going to aim for a kicker or defense that isn't going to be on somebody's team. They might be, but more than likely they're on the waiver wire. So if you're streaming kickers or defenses, I'd go out and grab Josh Lambo against Jacksonville. Jacksonville showed a little bit of what we expected to see. They were able to hang with Green Bay. They didn't let the game get out of hand. They didn't let Green Bay put up 30, 40 points, but they were able to stop them a couple times, holding the field goals. San Diego's offense has no problem with moving the ball, but without Keenan Allen, I think they're going to have problems getting into the end zone unless Melvin Gordon can continue this little streak that he has going.
Which we kind of saw hinted to against Kansas City in the second half. They didn't find the end zone at all. They got 2 field goals, and that was it.
So Josh Lambo's the guy I'd go pick up off the waiver.
For my kicker, this one definitely no one's going to have him because no one knew he existed. Will Lutz for the Saints against the Giants. I thought he did great last week. I think he had 2 misses, a 50-some-odd yarder, and then the 60-yarder at the end. But I'm predicting this game is going to get quickly out of hand, just like it did last season. Where they put up over 100 points. There's going to be plenty of opportunity. Bomb to Cooks, bomb to Odell Beckham, bomb to Cooks. It's going to be like this again. There's going to be plenty of opportunity for Lutz too. Extra points, field goals. So, if you're streaming kickers, he might be a good kicker to pick up this week. For my sit of kicker, I'm saying sit Phil Dawson against Carolina. Last week, Dawson 4 points, all off extra points. Because San Fran beat LA 28-0. Carolina's not going to let that happen. They'll be lucky if they get 2 touchdowns. So avoid Phil Dawson. He's not going to net you any more points that he did last week.
My sit is Adam Vinatieri against Denver. I have a really strong feeling that the Colts are not going to be able to move the ball this week. Their offensive line is weak, and Denver's defense is going to take full advantage of that. I don't think Luck's going to have enough time to get the ball out of his hands, and Gore's not going to be able to run the ball. I think this one's going to end up being lopsided in Denver's favor, and Vinatieri is going to suffer points-wise from it. So that's my sit. For defenses, if you're looking to stream a defense, I'd go out and grab Philly against Chicago. Philly thrives off of turnovers, and Schwartz is now their defensive coordinator, but that's not going to change anything. I think they showed a stat last week that he's been a top 10 scoring defense over the last 3 years. And Philly does have problems on their defense, but they're still going to find ways to get turnovers. Mm-hmm. And Chicago Cutler likes to turn over the ball. Let's be real here. And Langford is still getting his feet underneath him. You never know what's going to happen. I think Philly's going to end up having a good week.
Well, this defense more than likely is picked up. Start the Jets versus the Bills. Last week they got to Andy Dalton 7 times.
Yeah,
7 times, forced him to turn it over. The Bills, they have problems they need to figure out on offense. They're not going to figure out in this short week. I could easily see the Jets maybe racking up another 7 sacks on Tyrod and forcing some turnover. With Watkins out of commission, probably, this offense is going to be stagnant.
Yeah, absolutely.
My sit: avoid the Giants and the Saints at all costs, especially if you play in a league where you lose points based off how many points the defense let up. Like I said, it's going to be a high-scoring game. Both teams, they don't really turn the ball over. Eli had that horrible pick. I think he panicked last week where he literally threw it right to the corner who was on his knees. I don't know what that was about. But the 2 teams, they don't really turn it over. So you're not going to see a lot of points out of these 2 defenses.
For me, my sit is Minnesota Vikings defense against Green Bay. The Vikings defense was the highest scoring fantasy defense last week. Awesome. A fumble return for a touchdown and a pick return for a touchdown carried the Vikings to victory. But Rodgers and Lacey don't turn the ball over. Not often. And they do have this really good habit for Packers fans, really bad habit for everyone else, of putting up a lot of points. So, like he said, if you play in a league where you lose points for points given up and yardage given up, you're not going to want to have Minnesota's defense out there this week. Now we'll jump into our weekly picks.
Whoop.
All right, so first game tomorrow night.
Woo.
Jets at Buffalo. I'm going with the Jets. The Jets hung in there, lost by a point to a regular playoff team. They're generally considered a contender, even though they can never win that first game in the playoffs.
It'd be scary to see what if they won that first game. What could happen?
And Buffalo struggled against a Baltimore team where most of them were recovering from serious injuries from a year ago. Forsett broke his arm, I think.
Low leg. Thought he broke his femur.
Broke something. Flacco tore something.
Steve Smith snapped his Achilles.
Rashad Perriman missed the entire season for whatever his problem was. So all of them were coming back off of injuries. They had some new face at left tackle and Ronnie Stanley, and yet Buffalo still struggled. I think that and Terrell Suggs. Don't forget about Suggs on the defensive side of the ball. The Jets are going to be able to get Tyrod without Watkins, even if Watkins does play with his injury, Buffalo's offense is going to struggle. The Jets' offense was moving the ball last week.
They were.
I'm going with the Jets. Jets are going to win this one.
Yeah, I've basically got that verbatim on mine. It's weird. I did this at work and Lance didn't.
I just wing it.
Yeah, just wing it. No, I've got basically the same thing. The Jets, I fully thought the Jets were going to win with how they were playing. They were playing great. They lost to a superior team. Buffalo, I think this is going to more come down to Buffalo's got a lot of issues they need to figure out, and they need to figure out quick.
Yep.
Their defense, they did take some injuries this year. They need to figure out how to overcome that. Their offense needs to figure out how to start moving the ball. Tyrod was one of the more explosive quarterbacks last season, and he just frankly looked like he should have been a backup last week. So, like you said earlier, Todd Bowles, defensive mastermind, he's going to see what Baltimore did last week, and he's going to emulate that. He's that team we were talking about.
They put pressure on. That's what they did. They got to Tyrod, and the Jets have better players who can do the exact same thing.
Yeah, they put 7 sacks on Dalton. That's unheard of. Some teams won't get 7 sacks until they're bye.
I watched the Red Zone channel.
Yeah, same here.
NFL Network Red Zone channel.
It's on next week.
It's awesome. But I watched that, and it seemed like every single time they jumped over to the Baltimore game, Tyrod was on his back.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time. So the Jets are going to have their way, I think. I mean, I know it's a division rivalry, and anything can happen. I just think the Jets are going to end up having their way with
it. I think the Jets also have a little extra incentive to get after Buffalo after Buffalo snuffed their playoff chances last year.
Yeah.
There's going to be some bad blood between this game. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some fighting on the field. Not like, full-out brawling, but it might turn into a nasty game, which we love.
Who you got next?
We got San Fran at Carolina. Yeah, I think we're both in unison in this one. Carolina's going to win. They're definitely going to bounce back from the 1-point loss from last week.
Are you saying that San Fran's 28-0 victory
was a joke?
Fluke?
That was a fluke. I don't know what the hell. We'll talk about it later, but I don't know what the hell LA's problem was.
Oh.
That I think astounded the entire football world. Apparently, it was so boring. Ron Rivera fell asleep.
The best play of the game was the streaker.
Yeah. Did you hear the call on that?
Yes,
that
awesome.
Was hilarious. But no, serious. No, Carolina's going to win.
Yeah, Carolina. Next.
Dallas
at Washington. I'm going with Dallas. I think that Washington had a lot of problems against Pittsburgh. And yes, Pittsburgh has a great offense, but they don't have that great of a defense, and Washington struggled on offense.
16 points, I think, is all they could muster.
Dallas doesn't have that great of a defense either, pass rush-wise. Their secondary isn't too bad, but they were able to handle the Giants' passing game. So I think that Dallas is going to be able to move the ball offensively better than they did against the Giants. And Washington, unless they can figure out their problems in a week, they're going to end up struggling. So I'm going with Dallas.
Yep, same boat as Lance. I thought Dallas Dak Prescott, he played really good ball. You wouldn't have guessed it. He was a rookie, first career start. Especially if Ezekiel Elliott can figure out his issue, which I think he might. Like we alluded to it earlier. Williams played behind a inferior line and still went off on Washington. Elliott should be able to do the same thing. Take that pressure off Prescott, and Dallas should pretty much have their way with Washington the same way Pittsburgh did.
Yeah.
All right, next I got Baltimore at Cleveland.
Oh, that is not what I have.
Well,
we went off the same thing.
Apparently not. Baltimore at Cleveland. I picked Baltimore. Cleveland did not look good at all. Their defense didn't look good. Their offense especially didn't look good. I think they're going to be at an even more disadvantage now. RG3 is on IR. You got McCown coming in, who hasn't played with this group of players, since last season. So McCown might be a little rusty. He's not going to have that what little chemistry RG3 had with the receivers. I think Baltimore should more or less have this pretty handedly. I think that we'll see an improvement from Baltimore from last week.
Yeah, I went with Baltimore too. Josh McCown can win games. We saw it happen last year. He can. But I don't know. Cleveland just didn't look like what I expected a Hugh Jackson-led offense to look. And if RG3 beat out Josh McCown in the preseason, you have to wonder how he's going to look in the offense. Baltimore's defense was tremendous last week, constantly after the passer. Their secondary still leaves something to be desired, but when you have Matt Judon, that rookie, and you have Terrell Suggs, and they also have the other rookie, Kamalai Correa. Try saying that name three times fast.
I'm not even going to say it once.
But they're able to get after the quarterback. Timmy Jernigan, I think, was in the backfield a couple times too. Baltimore's able to get after the quarterback. Cleveland's going to end up having some problems trying to get the ball off. Baltimore's going to win this one. You took Baltimore too?
Yeah.
Next, I have Cincinnati at Pitt. I'm assuming you don't.
That's right there.
Okay.
Found it.
I'm going with Cincinnati.
Oh.
I know Pitt looked good, but like I said, Pitt doesn't have the greatest defense. And I think Cincinnati's going to be able to run away with that because of A.J. Green and Andy Dalton. Tyler Boyd didn't look too bad as a rookie. And even if they try to cover up A.J. Green, which you're going to have to throw like 3 people at him just to shut him down. But, Cincinnati, I think they'll be able to run the ball more this week than they did against the Jets, which will also help their offense. And then defense, it's going to be a shootout. That's how it's going to end up being. Cincinnati has the better defense, though, and that's why I took Oakland over New Orleans. That's why I'm taking Cincinnati over Pitt.
I'm taking Pitt. I full agreement. I think this is going to be a shootout, which is not something we normally see of an AFC North as a division game. You think AFC North, they're the defensive powerhouse in the NFL, or at least they used to be in the past. But I'm giving Pitt the edge here because I think Pitt has the better offense, and I think that'll make up for the Bengals having the better defense. I think Pitt will look and see what the Jets did. Yeah, the Jets have a better defensive line and corners and such. But I think they'll be able to find a way to emulate that. They were able to basically shut down Washington's offense, which last season they had a fairly decent offense under Cousins. Cousins looked pretty terrible, throwing... How many picks did he throw?
3.
Yeah, he threw 3 picks.
Pretty sure 3.
So, I definitely think it's going to be a shootout. Pitt definitely has an edge. They're at home, which is a huge advantage. Tennessee at Detroit.
I moved them up. I already looked
at
the sheet. Yeah.
So, went on the right path.
That's not where they were on mine, though.
I looked at the top bar. I looked at the top bar.
Oh, see, that's not where I was.
No, we're still not on the same page.
Click on the scores and then go off of that.
No, I was being lazy. Anyways, Tennessee, Detroit. I think Tennessee's going to get this one.
I'm with you.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm surprised. I think Detroit had a good hand dealt to them going against Indianapolis' crappy defense. Tennessee has a much better defense. Look what they did to AP. Look what they did to that entire offense. The entire Minnesota Vikings offense didn't score at all. Tennessee would have won had it not been for Mariota's mistakes, which I think he'll get addressed. Minnesota has a really good defense.
Detroit does not.
They do not, which we saw. The Detroit's defense was just better than Indianapolis.
My expectation with Detroit and Indianapolis was that Detroit was going to be able to get in the backfield on luck, and because Indy does not have a good offensive line. Tennessee has a better offensive line than Indy does. If Detroit could not do it against Indy, I don't see them being able to do it against Tennessee.
And Tennessee's got the added benefit. They got DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry they're going to wear this defense out. Mariota, he's just going to, I think he's going to take a game manager approach. They're going to be able to just drive and drive and drive.
Also, Tajay Sharp, 7 receptions off of 11 targets for 76 yards, I believe.
Against a good Minnesota defense. So
I was very happy with that, given that I drafted him in round 13 as a sleeper pick. So yeah, Tennessee. Both going with it. New Orleans at the Giants. That's what I have next.
Oh, I had KC at Houston, but it's okay.
I'm going with the Saints.
Who dat?
I think that the Giants' defense did better than what I thought they were going to do, but Brandon Cooks, oh man, Dez Bryant, don't get me wrong,
good,
solid receiver, one of the top. But Brandon Cooks has got the speed, and I think that the Giants' defense is going to have problems trying to keep up with
Would
it.
you say Brandon Cooks has better hands? Because we had another. Did Dez catch it? Nope,
Yeah.
he dropped it.
But yeah, with Cooks and then Willie Snead and what he was able to do, and I think that Michael Thomas is going to start getting involved, and Kobe Fleener
He
is
did
gonna
though.
start
He
getting
did.
involved.
He did last weekend. So
More, though.
Yeah, I mean
More.
he was still making. I mean he's third on the string right now. I mean it's hard to beat out Cooks and Snead, but Thomas, what little role he did have, I don't think he missed a single target. He was making, like he's been doing all preseason, making those crazy catches look normal.
The key here for New Orleans, though, is they have to get Ingram going. Elliott wasn't able to get going for Dallas. They weren't able to manage the clock. And then at the end, we saw it all come crumbling down. But that was a different problem. They have to get Ingram going. They have to be able to have both sides of the sword. They can't rely entirely on their pass game because
As much as I like that.
the Giants do have DRC and they do have Janoris Jenkins. And they got to be able to bring up the safeties so that way they can throw it over top. Who do you got?
I put an asterisk next to this. I put the Giants basically only giving home field advantage to the Giants. But definitely, you touched on a lot of points that New Orleans needs to improve on. They also need to work on their time management. They had no timeouts going into that last final drive. Had they had one timeout, the Saints more than likely could have come out with the victory on that. But Sean Payton used up all the timeouts, I think, with like 3 or 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. You can't do that. You can't do that. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to come down to whoever. I said they're not going to turn the ball over. But when you're into a shootout and you start dropping passes, missing catches, you're going to start punting it off. Whoever punts the less is going to win.
Plus, the Saints have the better running back. Ingram
They
is
do.
better than Rashad Jennings. He's better than Paul Perkins and Shane Vereen. The Giants.
And that's just Ingram. And then behind them, they just released Spiller, which surprised me. Not really. Kind of, yeah. But they have Tim Hightower. They have Traveris Cadet. They have Daniel Lasco.
Cadet had a receiving touchdown too, didn't he?
I think so.
Yeah.
Breeze is just handing them out like candy.
Yeah. Everyone, it's like Oprah.
You want a touchdown.
You get
want
a
a touchdown. Everyone in this room getting touchdowns. All right, next I got KC at Houston. I put KC. I'm sure you're going to agree with.
I'm not entirely sure. Give me one second.
Okay, one sec.
Yes, I did.
Okay, yeah, I put KC at Houston. I think whatever the hell happened to KC in the first half against the Chargers could more be alluded to the fact it was a division game, so those are generally tougher. I think.
Well, we've seen San Diego do it in the past too.
Did we have
What was
against
it?
Green Bay? Where
3 years ago, 2-3 years ago with Denver when they went up
Yep.
28 points in the first half and then blew it in the second half. It's a common problem.
they did
with
it to
San
Green
Diego.
Bay too last year. I think Rivers threw 500 frickin' yards, and they lost the game. So. No, KC, they have the better offense and defense comparable to Houston. Yeah, Houston's got J.J. Watt, but he can't carry the entire team. Yeah, KC.
I'm with KC also. Macklin, I kind of want to go with Houston because Macklin's got to be healthy and he's got to be able to play well because Kansas City doesn't really, other than Travis Kelce, they don't really have another receiving option on that team. Tyreek Hill, that rookie scoring the touchdown, Albert Wilson, but neither one of them is going to be a player where you're going to be like, we got to watch out for him. If Macklin ends up getting hurt or he's unable to go for whatever reason, then they're going to be focused on Spencer Ware, and that's going to become a problem for Kansas City. But I'm gonna take him anyways. I think that Kansas City will get whatever the problem was in the first half from last week completely figured out like they did in the second half, and they'll be able to go. Brock Osweiler going against Marcus Peters. That's going to be
Eric
interesting.
Berry.
Tamba Ali.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Kansas City's defense is going to create problems for Osweiler. And they know Osweiler.
They do, yep, from last year.
Next, I have Miami at New England. Is that who you have?
That's what we got.
All right.
We're on the same page.
About time.
You would think that we would kind of correspond with each other on this, but we kind of just wing it until we sit down right here.
Yep, looks like we're both going New England.
Yeah, and I really don't need to talk about this much. I talked about it for the fantasy starts and sits.
Talk about it a little bit. Brady's still not starting. Garoppolo's in, but Garoppolo showed he can pick on a defense's weakness when he did it against Arizona. Miami has a lot of defensive weaknesses. I think that
everything behind the defensive line.
I also think that LeGarrette Blount's going to find more room to run this week.
Yeah.
So that'll give him another bonus. And
plus Gronk should be back, which will help.
New England's defense looked really good.
They really did.
Against Arizona.
They really did. And I was surprised at that.
So, New England.
All right. We talked about them. Tampa Bay to Arizona.
Nope, that's not what I had next.
No, well, that's who I got. That's where we're going with. I chose Arizona. Jameis Winston is not going to be able to do to Arizona what he did to the Falcons. Arizona's got a much better rounded defense to Atlanta. They can get after the quarterback, which Jameis Winston, he had basically all the time in the world to sit there, find, Mike Evans down the field 43 yards, find Austin Seferian-Jenkins for 30 yards. He had all the time in the world to do it. Arizona's not going to give him that opportunity. Arizona's, as much as I hate to say it, Arizona's not going to let Doug Martin get going. He was held pretty much in check last week against Atlanta, so it should be even worse against Arizona. And I think Carson Palmer and company, they're going to find a way to come back. And I could see this easily getting out of hand with Tampa Bay's defense getting picked apart.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to come down to. I picked Arizona also. I don't think that this is going to end up being completely one-sided. I think that Winston will be able to do something. Obviously, I picked him as my fantasy start. I think he'll be able to do something against Arizona's defense. However, if Arizona is truly a contender for the Super Bowl, which I believe they are.
Oh, absolutely.
You're not going to go 0-2 to start the season. They won't. They'll find a way to win this. Bruce Arians will find a way for them to win this, and their offense is going to get back on track against a much easier defense in Tampa Bay. So Palmer, Fitzgerald, John Brown, Michael Floyd.
David Johnson.
It's
David
an explosive offense that's just waiting to light the fuse. Next I have Seattle at LA.
Get it.
Yeah. I'm going with LA.
Ooh.
And not because I think that the Rams are a threat, but because it seems like every single time these two meet, the Rams manage to pull out some miracle victory over the Seahawks.
They really do.
And the Seahawks struggle in the first half of the season. So if the Rams are going to do it, it's going to be now. They need Todd Gurley to step up, which he didn't do against San Fran.
Not at all.
They need him to step up. They need Keenum to figure it out. Otherwise, they need to bench Keenum and put Goff in. I know they're kind of worried about throwing Goff into the fire. They don't think he's ready. Hey, put him out there. See what happens.
Prescott's already thrown in there. Wentz has been thrown out there.
See what happens. I mean, Wentz was against Cleveland. Hold your horses, Eagles fans. It was against Cleveland. But he did look good.
He did. He really did. I think he had one turnover. Moved the ball, I think, 200 some odd yards. He controlled the game like he should have to do. Prescott, fourth rounder, he moved the ball just fine.
Yep.
Simeon, seventh rounder. Now he's not technically a rookie.
He had one snap and it was a kneel down.
Yeah, so no, I think LA needs to get over themselves. They spent so much, and they invested so much of their future into Goff. The future's now. I don't think Jeff Fisher can afford another 7-9 season. He hasn't had a winning season since 2008. How is he still a head coach?
I don't know how he wasn't fired.
I have Seattle in this.
Wait, I want to finish.
I'm sorry.
The LA Rams win in a miracle fashion.
Wow. No, I'm gonna take the probability on this. I don't know if LA, whatever happens to them last week, I don't know if they'll be able to quickly adjust course in a pretty quick turn in a 1 week turnaround. Seattle, their defense looked good. Seattle's defense looked good, like they usually always do. This offense is a question mark, but I think Seattle's defense alone will be able to keep them in the game enough for Russell Wilson to come in fourth quarter, last minute, win the game.
Also, the LA Rams defense is a lot better than what they did last week. I
have no idea what happened.
I don't know what.
Carlos Hyde running over Donald. Donald got ejected.
Yeah.
What was that about?
Yeah, touched a ref.
Don't touch a ref.
No suspension. Just
yeah,
fine.
Possibly. So. Oh, unless okay. Me,
Yep.
Indianapolis at Denver. Indianapolis isn't going to move the ball on Denver's elite defense. I think we both got Denver for this one.
I already talked about it. Denver's going to end up controlling the game, and that's going to be the important part.
I mean, look what Denver did against Carolina, the team that they beat in the Super Bowl, who, Carolina's a contender to make it again. They held them pretty much in check, and Indianapolis is no Carolina team. They're going to have a much easier time this week. Especially since they got a lot longer, kind of time around.
Indianapolis might have offensive weapons like Carolina, but they do not have a defense like Carolina. And Carolina's offensive line, although not great, still better than Indy's. And Indy is going to have some problems against Von Miller. Let's
leave it at that. Who, surprisingly, Von Miller was pretty quiet, last week. And
Until he got that sack.
That one sack, that's all he did. But, props to Carolina, that right tackle. I can't remember his name.
Remmers.
Remmers figuring out how to stop him.
Next I have Jacksonville at San Diego.
Sure.
All right. I'm going with Jacksonville.
Yep. That's what I got to.
I already touched on it a little bit with Josh Lambo when I said that, start him, because I don't think San Diego's going to be able to get in the end zone. I fully expect and fully hope a rebound from Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
I know he's going to
I don't even think that's an Allen Robinson thing. Bortles needs to settle down.
Yeah.
Bortles overthrew him so many times, a few of them in the end zone.
That nice little let me grab your hip and keep you from getting to the ball by Sam Shields. Yeah, that made me a little upset. I think that Bortles to Allen Robinson is going to be alive and well again. Even with Jason Verrett, they can't even necessarily give Verrett complete help, over top, because you have to worry about Allen Hurns on the other side, and you have to worry about Julius Thomas at tight end.
You have to worry about Yeldon coming out of the backfield. You got a lot to
Jacksonville
worry about.
has enough weapons for San Diego's defense to have their hands full, and Jacksonville's defense is going to be able to maybe not fully contain Rivers, but at least keep them out of the end zone.
Well, with Keenan out, I could easily see Jacksonville being able to contain him. He doesn't really have too many more options to throw to.
He didn't last year either, but he still was one of the top yardage quarterbacks in the league. He just couldn't get
I think Jacksonville's they're going to figure their pass rush was pretty, subpar last week. But that's against Green Bay. You're not going to it's a very rare day that Green Bay, puts up a ton. Rodgers gets sacked a lot and turns the ball over and stuff. Jacksonville, I think Jacksonville should. They have every opportunity, every ability to be able to handily control this game.
Yeah.
And if Ivory comes in too, that's just one more weapon they got to worry about. Mm-hmm. So Jacksonville. Next, I got Atlanta, Oakland. I'm taking Oakland. Oakland's offense did really well. Yeah, it's the Saints' defense, but I think they continued right where they left off at the end of last season. The AC/DC connection. This is great. They didn't score. They got the 2-point for me, so I got a fair amount of points from Amari. I think they're going to do even better this week. Kind of settle down from those week 1 nerves. I wholly expect Oakland's defense to figure it out. Khalil Mack, Bruce Irving, they're going to figure out something with them. Hopefully we'll hear Khalil Mack mentioned. And Oakland's playing at home. Coming home, you're going to be all amped up start of the season. Oakland's going to win this.
I'm going with Oakland too, but they're coming home after a huge victory based off of a big gamble by their head coach that paid off entirely. Oakland is going into this game with all the momentum, and Atlanta's going into the game with having all the wind sucked out of their sails by Tampa Bay.
Absolutely.
I think that Ryan could still have a solid game, but as we've seen in the past, he can't do it by himself. Mm-hmm. That defense is going to have to step up if they want to win this game. I don't think that they'll be able to shut down Oakland's offense, though. I'm going with Oakland also. Sunday night,
Boom.
Green Bay at Minnesota. As much as I would like to go with Minnesota, I have to go with Green Bay. It doesn't matter if Sean Hill or Sam Bradford starts at quarterback. Green Bay's got the defense to stop them.
Mm-hmm.
Adrian Peterson is normally has huge games against Green Bay, and I think that he could again, but Green Bay doesn't turn the ball over. That's where the problem's going to be. And they have the passing attack and the rushing attack. And Rodgers is not Mariota. He's not the kind of person who's going to get flustered the way that Mariota did Well, to me, it seemed like Mariota got flustered.
He did.
So, yeah, Green Bay ends up winning this game.
I don't think it's going to be as close as you're dreading. I picked Green Bay to win. But I don't think it's going to be as close as it is. Like I said last week when I predicted, Minnesota beating Tennessee, they're going to rely. They didn't really have the running game to rely on. But they're going to rely on this defense, and eventually the running game, when it gets going, it will get going. It's Adrian frickin' Peterson. He's gonna start breaking out. Breaking off the rust. He doesn't play in preseason. That was his preseason game. Expect it. Minnesota, they've never been a team that relies on the quarterback play. It's Adrian Peterson. This is defense. I definitely pick Minnesota's defense over Green Bay's defense. But when you've got Aaron Rodgers, he's going to make the plays happen. I mean, we saw he was getting sacked and threw a touchdown last week. Name me another quarterback that can do that. He was on his way down and threw a touchdown. So I will give the edge to Green Bay, but I would not be surprised at all. Minnesota, new stadium, Sunday night. Everyone's going to be amped. That defense is going to be fired, especially what they did last week. Especially what they did, and it's Green Bay. Mm-hmm. What they did last week, I think it'll carry over. I think it's going to be a really close game. It's going to be fun to watch regardless.
Monday night,
Philly at Chicago. I picked Philly. It's Chicago. Jay Cutler, like you talked about earlier, that's why Philly's your start defense. Cutler likes to turn the ball over. Philly is going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I'm going with Philly too. Wentz looked good. Chicago doesn't have the pass defense to necessarily, shut down the rookie. And then Ryan Matthews didn't look too bad either.
He didn't. I mean, it took him until the end of the game to get the touchdown, but they didn't need him. Wentz was, through 2 touchdowns. They didn't need to rely on Matthews.
And, yeah, same thing with the whole Cutler deal. So, yeah, I got Philly winning also. We only picked 3 games different than each other. Interesting.
So suck when I beat you again this week.
Last week, we did not do well. I mean, Breyer went 8-8. I went 6-10. We fully intend to rebound this week, so still don't go out.
We're either going to rise together or we're going to fall. With only 3 games different, Lance is going to fall farther than I will.
No.
Yeah.
Just remember,
history's in my favor.
Don't go out and spend all your money on our picks.
My picks.
Don't do it.